Hey YouTubers, don't forget to subscribe and hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. Enjoy the video. Hey YouTubers, and welcome back to another Dragon Ball Super discussion video. I am once again joined by the one, the only, Mr. MJ from MJ TV. Man, why don't you say hello to everyone listening?
I'm surprised you didn't say Geekless TV. Everyone's been getting me confused with that man, bro. I heard he's good looking, but I never met him before. the last I heard of him... Yeah, I heard he looks like Mario, man. The last I heard of him was that he's running an orphanage in Mexico, bro. Good for him. Hopefully one day I can meet him. But yes, MJ, I'm here.
It sounds like a weird sequel to Breaking Bad. we should write Vince Gilligan. Anyway, so we're gonna be talking about, you saw the title, you saw the thumbnail. I brought this to MJ because I am just super curious when it comes to Jiren's character in general. And really, it's not just, okay, I've talked about this in the past. The guy is not the most enthusiastic person ever to be introduced in Dragon Ball, villain or otherwise. The guy has no personality. And you and I have both talked about this separately and together, man. Like, Jiren is just kind of not interesting. I mean, he is stoic type. I will link the video we did in the description section below if anyone wants to go listen to it. The difference between Jiren and Hit, and why Hit is actually a way more intense, more interesting character than Jiren, just straight off the bat.
He's not an a-hole either.
He's not. Yeah, he doesn't look you right in the eye. It's like, no, you're no longer a threat. Like that's just a mistake, dude. That's just a mistake. We all know it. It's ironic, really, but. Really, I wanted to do this video because the very first time we saw Jiren, Jiren was in the episode preview that they ended up changing for the particular episode in the I guess it was the promotional images where we got to see next to Margarita and Belmont, we got to see Jiren in the hood. He was the guy, hooded figure, watching in the preliminary matches, and then the week before that episode aired, they changed it to Toppo. Now, at the time, we didn't think that they were changing it to Toppo, but they did change it to Toppo. And since then, Toppo has been introduced as not only the leader of the Pride Troopers, but also the next in line in order to be the God of Destruction of Universe 11, and a really eccentric, interesting character in and of his own right. And Jiren is just the tough guy on the team. You know, he's the guy who's above everyone else, but he doesn't have really much of a personality to begin with. I'm wondering not just whether or not they did this on purpose, or whether or not at some point Jiren and Toppo were actually one and the same character, or whether it would actually be better for these two characters to be literally the same character, considering Toppo has so much more personality to give to this series than someone like Jiren. So what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, there could be some possibility and there could be some merit to that. I mean, just go back to the idea that Toriyama and Toyotaro, they mentioned this. They mentioned the Tournament of Power, or at the idea of a multiverse tournament back during the Universe 6 arc. Like, that idea was floating in Toriyama's head, you know, having all the universes go at it, right? Obviously, things changed. Future Trunks stuff happened with the staff, and he had to rewrite, and he had to write that. So obviously, things changed, but you are right about that. It always makes me wonder if these two characters, because in Z ended a long time ago, and we got guides and interviews where we find out certain things, behind the scenes. I've always wondered, like, if Toriyama in his head had Toppo and Jiren as the same character, but then split them. You know what I mean? Like, if he had Toppo and Jiren, whether it's the same name or not, or he had a different name entirely, whether they were just one character, leader of the Pride Troopers, all about justice, super freaking strong, stronger than the God of Destruction, but then he split them, and he gave Toppo the personality and the justice, and he gave Jiren the strength, I've always wondered that. That's always been, like, in the back of my head. And when you brought this up to me, I'm like, okay, yeah, it's true. I don't think anyone's really talked about this, and they reminded me of what I used to have about Jiren and them in my head, about that. So there's merit to that idea that maybe at one point in time when this arc was in production, when Toriyama was putting together the script, or just in his own head, he did have these two guys as one of the same, but then split them. You know what I mean? And I don't know if I want to say it would be better if they were together, but I think, I don't know, because it's so weird. I like Toppo's character, but at the same time, I feel like, again, I know. People are probably gonna call me a super apologist. I'm just kidding. I feel like I want to give more time to what they're gonna do with Jiren, because right now, to me, the way I view him as a very, very arrogant, cocky person. And I would even go as far as to say he's a bit of an a-hole. You know what I mean? He's still a hero. You know, I guess he still saves people, but he's still an a-hole, you know? So I actually want to see what they do with him, because like we've talked about off air, the rematch is coming, you know? They're already teasing it. We know we're going to get a rematch between Goku and Jiren. So whether they want to give it more time for them to flesh it out, that's a possibility. But the idea of them being one and the same at either one point, or whether they should have stayed one and the same, there's a lot of merit to it, and I don't think I would have been too against it. You know what I mean? I don't want to say it would be better, but I wouldn't be against it if Toppo and Jiren were in fact one and the same, you know?
I want to say, before I go further and kind of answer what you were talking about earlier, I do think there is, like you said, merit to the idea that maybe Toriyama was building up these characters to be one and the same. But look at what Toriyama's done in the past. Look at the characters that he's brought to the forefront to be the main villains, or at least when he first originated these characters to be the main villains. I mean, a lot has been said by you, by Geekdom, by a lot of people in the community, that originally 19 and 20 were supposed to be the androids, until someone said, like, those guys are ridiculous.
Yeah,
like those guys are ridiculous
looking. Yeah,
and even Frieza's men, most everyone in Dragon Ball is kind of ridiculous looking. It's Toriyama has a long history of having really strong opposing characters that look, I guess, visually strange as opposed to everyone else on the battlefront. And Toppo fits that bill of Toriyama's long-standing history of that. He is strange. I mean, he's not necessarily buff. He has that Wilford Brimley beard, like mustache. He has that physique too. He's pretty fat. He's not really intimidating. But to have this guy be as strong as he is, but not just be, just be that much weaker to Goku or even Vegeta, calling himself the second fiddle, just doesn't seem like it's Toriyama-esque. Having someone like Jiren be the main opponent for Universe 11 feels a little bit like someone was heavy-handed on Toriyama's creative outlet and saying, we need an antagonizing force that's more intimidating, that's more mysterious and everything else. This one guy looks ridiculous, and you cannot have him as the main antagonist of this story. But if you look at him, if you look at the mentality or the characteristics of Toppo throughout this entire arc, it coincides almost perfectly with Gohan. A lot of people are saying that Gohan has been being built up. I mean, you and I have talked about it in excess throughout the last couple of months, that Gohan has been built up to win this tournament. Everyone wants to see that Toppo or the Jiren versus Gohan fight at the end of all this, because, well, if you look at Gohan at the beginning of that original opening sequence, he's meditating in the same way that Jiren is meditating, and they're building up Gohan and all this other stuff. Yeah. Imagine if Toppo's character was the strongest person in Universe 11. Who would be clamoring? Everyone would be clamoring for a Gohan versus Toppo fight. They have the same mentality. Peace and justice and weird poses, and you need to have everything, like, you cannot interrupt someone who's posing and all this other stuff. They're almost one and the same. It would be kind of interesting to see them go head to head in order to save their universes despite their similarities. I think that would be kind of cool and also really humorous.
It's weird because that's why I said I didn't want to jump the gun, because the one thing we know about Toyotaro is that supposedly, I mean, there's been different interviews and stuff, but because there was an interview that came out where Toriyama does check all storyboards, right? Which that may indicate that he does pay close attention to the manga. I mean, to the anime, excuse me. Which makes sense because remember, he was mad about the animation at one point in the series. So he does pay close attention to what's going on in the anime. It's not just the manga. But we know that Toyotaro works so close with this guy that they were exchanging different versions of Mossy, like texting each other. Hey, check this one out. Should I redo this? He's like, Toriyama's like, okay, redo the ears. And, it's like they work so close together that it's kind of interesting. And what I'm getting at here is that in the manga, It's out on Viz.com, Dragon Ball Super. You can go check out the recent manga chapter. Toppo is very, yeah, I'm gonna say he's very different in the manga. He didn't strike a pose whatsoever during the Goku fight. He hardly said anything about justice. I mean, maybe he said it like once, but that's it. I don't even think he said it at all now that I think about it. So it makes me wonder, what's the characterization here of these characters? Like, what's the difference here? Like, what's going on? Because it's like Toppo in the manga, whether people like it or not, because I know people don't. Like, I know, like, C-Reacts, our good boy C-Reacts, when he does his reactions, I remember he was laughing at Toppo because he's so unorthodox looking. He couldn't take him seriously. Where in the manga, he's so cool. Like, there's a scene where Goku goes God, and Toppo's like, "You finally cast the aura of a god. I shall do the same." You know what I mean? Very cool and calm and collected, no poses. And I'm over here thinking in my head, dear God, is Jiren gonna be one doing the poses? The dabs? I'm thinking in my head him just dabbing and screaming justice at Goku while they're fighting. But see, like I said, it's hard to jump the gun here because I really don't know. Like, you brought up such a good idea here on Toppo, but then like the manga's telling me something else, and then we haven't really seen that much from Jiren yet. So Jiren's personality could completely change depending on that second rematch with Goku. You know what I mean? And in the manga, like I don't even know what's going on in the manga because like you're right, you brought up everything about Toppo and why it fits the bill. He's an unorthodox character. He looks weird, you know what I mean? He has the beard. You don't expect him to be this overwhelming strong character that transcends time, you know, if he was as strong as Jiren. But like in the manga, it's like he's not doing any of that, so it's really weird. And it really goes back to what you were talking about at the beginning of this video. Like, I wonder what's going on here. Like, what was in Toriyama's head when creating these two characters? Because like you said, we had that, you know, that animation error or that misjudgment where they had Jiren instead of Toppo. Then you have, like, over here, Toppo in the manga just being completely different. Then in the anime, you have Jiren with no personality. It's like, I'm very interested, you know what I mean? Like, I wonder what's going on there. Like, it really makes me think. Again, I'm not trying to stroke myself off here, but it really makes me think that at one point, pen to paper, Toriyama had these two guys as the same character. Legit. You know what I mean? I think it was like, it just makes sense. He's the leader of the Pride Troopers. His power is so strong. He's stronger than the God of Destruction. He's all about justice. He has the characterization. He has the personality. But now it's like, now that they've been broken up, there's differences between them, both in the anime and the manga, and it's very confusing to me.
The thing I would have to say about that when you bring this up is the main question here, and I think I've already answered this for myself, but I want to hear your thoughts and opinions as well. I personally, as much as I do kind of like Jiren, and I feel like it's probably good for the community as a whole, I've seen a lot of interest when it comes to Jiren. People are enthralled with him. But as I already said, he doesn't fit the bill of a Toriyama-esque main villain. He's too intimidating. Yeah. He's too on the nose. This is the main guy. Like any other anime series would be like, yeah, that's the main guy. That's the Toguro of our series, you know? The guy who's just like, I'm using only 80% of my power, and I'm like a muscle-bound freak. It's like,
a muscle-bound freak.
Yeah, like that's exactly what it is. Toppo is a Toriyama villain. Toppo is someone who you're not expecting, who's comical and small, intimidating, but he's big and comical, something like that. Do you think that it would have been more interesting to have Toppo as the Jiren type of character and have just another kind of fodder character in the Pride Troopers? Or is Jiren a good substitute? Is separating these two personalities the better for the betterment of this series? I mean, I think that's a really good question, not just for you, but everyone listening in the comment section below.
It's tough to say. Like I said, you brought up such a good proposal in the first. It's like, I agree with you. I completely agree with you that Toppo, he fits that bill. You know what I mean? He fits it. Other people agree. Like I said, it's just when it comes down to it, I don't know, bro. It's like so confusing. It's one of those situations, and this is one of the things that pisses me off, is that I mentioned this in my review of the manga chapter, is that the manga and the anime just differ so much that it's hard to come to a logical conclusion, to the point where you have to just say, okay, these are just two completely different interpretations of the same story. You know what I mean? And with that being said, I don't know, because even though Jiren does look like that laughingstock media type of guy, you know, with the muscles and the Tagoro, I'm sure Mike likes Jiren for that. At the same time, though, imagine if they do give him that. What if they give him Toppo's personality in the manga? Like, I don't think they would, but if they do, I would sort of be okay with it, and he would come off to me as, because he's the big bug guy. Okay, we're looking at it from one point of view. Let's look at it from this. He's the generic big bug guy, Men in Black alien who's doing dabs. That in itself is unorthodox. That in itself is like just having Goku just like, okay, when he's fighting him, you know. So I get your point of view, but it's just like, it's hard to answer, bro. I really don't know. I mean, obviously your commenters and the people watching this video are probably going to have a whole bunch to say, but it's just really hard to say. I really don't know, but I still do stand by what I said earlier. Pen to paper there, they were at once the same character, and Toppo does fit the bill more, you know, as of right now. As of right now, he does fit the bill more to be that final villain. Who knows? Maybe one of those Universe 4 bugs is going to come out and be stronger than Jiren, and he's that Toriyama type villain.
Yeah, maybe. I wouldn't be overly surprised at that, honestly. But guys, I'm gonna side with MJ on here. I honestly don't know. Had me choose, like, I would say I think having Toppo as the strongest person would actually be a little bit more fun, considering the similarities that he has not only with previous Toriyama villains, but also Gohan in general, and how much shine Gohan has gotten throughout this entire tournament, and what we're all expecting and hoping from him throughout. So yeah, that would be my main thing. But literally, I think Jiren's kind of cool. I mean, as a strong stoic type in a completely different context than someone like Hit. I'm standing behind Jiren. I think he was a cool concept, but just kind of biting my tongue, I think Toppo would have been kind of cool and have an orthodox villain like Toriyama usually does. But guys, with that being said, please go down to the comment section below and share your thoughts and opinions. Go also down to the description section below, hit that link, and go subscribe to MJ. The guy makes some really awesome content in Dragon Ball. You're not going to want to miss that as much as he wants to laugh over it, guys. So please, don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell over by the subscriber button to notify you every single time I upload. For the one thing, before I go here, the one thing MJ and I really try to do is we really try to bring really interesting, topical conversations, discussions that no one brings in this community. And we are always on YouTube, always on Twitter. So please go follow us and, you know, just communicate. We always want to talk with you guys in any social media platform that y'all want to talk to us in. So guys, with that being said, I hope everyone has a good day. It's been real.